Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has taught me a variety of lessons. The first one is patience. We all live in a world of people expecting instant gratification with everything that they choose to do. This is a short-sighted state of mind that is not compatible with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Jiu-Jitsu has a way of punishing people that aren't willing to develop the patience required for success. If a technique is rushed, such as a choke or a guard pass, you're much more likely to fail. If one becomes impatient and attempts to apply the pressure too quickly, it can unexpectedly work against you and give your opponent an opportunity to escape or counter your technique. If somebody advances with patience, on the other hand, waiting for the right opportunity to apply the pressure, they're far more likely to achieve the desired position or get the submission. Secondly, people who try to master the art too quickly usually do quite the opposite of that. Too frequently, new students try to learn every guard pass, every back take, all the submissions from every position within their first month of training. This mindset of trying to learn too much too quickly frequently results in frustration. It's far better to take your time, learn one effective and fundamental technique from each position before advancing to another. It's better to train one technique over and over again, get to the point where you can successfully pull it off, and fall back on it in a roll, opposed to learning an abundance of random techniques and only drilling them once every few months. This only leads to being average at most techniques instead of technically proficient and dangerous with a small amount of techniques that you have a high chance of finishing. The second life lesson that Jiu-Jitsu taught me is that failure is the way forward. Oftentimes when we fail, we see it as a negative. We go deep into our own minds and think all the things that we would have done differently and wonder about all the mistakes that we're currently making. This can be very overwhelming and disappointing to us. Jiu-Jitsu will force you to confront failure head on, especially in the beginning stages of your journey with it. Most people who start will go through the first 6 months to a year doing nothing but failing, getting swept, getting held down in bad positions, and even crushed by somebody who's a lot smaller than them. This can be a lot to handle for somebody who hasn't experienced the type of failure that Jiu-Jitsu will expose you to. But the reality of the situation is that every time you get your guard passed, every time you get tapped out, you gain the opportunity to learn a valuable lesson about that. Jiu-Jitsu is not specifically structured where the only way for someone to learn is by watching a more experienced practitioner copying what they do. The most effective way to learn is by finding yourself in a bad position and learning how you got there and how to prevent it in the future, of course. It isn't about reinventing the wheel and learning one technique that nobody knows about. It's about going through a process of trial and error and learning what not to do. And the only way to do this is to spend time in the fire, spending time deep in the role with somebody better than you. Learn from failure each day, and you'll soon look back at where you used to be and be amazed at how far you've come. Everybody has an ego, and we need to learn how to master it instead of denying that it's there. Some have found a way to minimize it and channel it into something good. Some people's lives are ruined by it. Jiu-Jitsu will force you to adapt, and it will change you in unexpected ways. The most common thing that people will gain from Jiu-Jitsu is an immensely valuable character trait, and that's humility. Humility is the realization that we're not as big as our egos tell us that we are. People who begin their journey in Jiu-Jitsu will quickly realize how beatable and vulnerable they really are. This forces us to take a step back and analyze who we are, and it challenges our identity. It's not you that is hurt, it's your ego that's never been properly put in its place. There's a very important life lesson that comes from knowing that somebody smaller, weaker, and younger than you can completely dominate you. You quickly realize how vulnerable you are, and that there's somebody who is always able to outperform you. That being said, the opposite can also be true. When you're put in a position where your ego is no longer controlling your life, the student in you can step up and rise to the occasion. A much better version of you now holds the reins and opens you up to being a better person. When you have made progressive steps in something as difficult as Jiu-Jitsu, you're in a much healthier mindset to handle the rest of life's difficulties. Therefore, you can impact other people in a positive, meaningful way through the art of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.